two players that I think have intrigued to me. Of the 27 players that were given spring training non-roster invites to camp, and I probably should say this, it's really three guys, but the first guy is just a formality for roster flexibility because technically Justin Crawford is a non-roster invitee because he's not on the 40. And that is really strictly just for the Phillies to have as much roster flexibility until that day comes that they decide that he's going to make the team and therefore have to put him on the 40. They don't have to put him there yet, so they're not going to do it as long as they can. When they do, obviously, they'll have to DFA somebody off of the 40-man roster. If I had to take a guess, I was looking at the 40 earlier today. One of three guys are probably the candidates, two pitchers and one position player. They added Pedro Leon from the Houston Astros, claimed him off waivers this offseason. I think if there's a chance of any position player getting moved off the 40, it's probably him. But I think the reality is it's probably going to be a pitcher. And the two guys that I have kind of targeted, one is Nolan Hoffman, who made a couple of appearances last year. I could see them trying to pass him through waivers and seeing if he could return to the organization without being claimed. The other one is up to the team's discretion because obviously if Zach McCambley is not going to make the team out of camp, then they're going to send him back to Miami as part of the Rule 5 draft, and that would just open up a roster spot anyway. So in terms of like formality, Justin Crawford technically is 3, but if we all believe Justin Crawford's going to make the team, which I certainly do, then it's just a matter of time before he gets added to the 40 anyway. But the two guys that I think are of intrigue, one is an outfielder, one is a pitcher. The outfielder is not a surprise. It's a guy that's been getting a lot of buzz over the Dominican Winter League. He actually ended up winning Dominican League Winter League MVP. It's Bryan De La Cruz, a veteran in his own right as a right-handed bat in the outfield. Had just 49 at-bats last year. Really didn't play much at the big league level because his numbers were not very good. There's his numbers from 2 years ago, his last full season in the big leagues, time split between the Pirates and the Marlins. Played in almost 150 games. The average 233, the OBP 271, nothing really to write home about. But he did hit 21 home runs and drove in 68, had 46 extra base hits. We're going to get into the good and the bad in just a moment. Bryan De La Cruz's bad is that he is not very good against breaking balls and has continually gotten worse. But you do see kind of expected reds and blues on his Baseball Savant page from 2 years ago, which we'll dive a little bit deeper into in just a second. But the barrel rates, the exit velocities, the hard hit percentages, those are the good. But again, last year really didn't have too much time in the big leagues, just 49 at-bats, one extra base hit, no home runs. Really did not pan out for the Braves when the Braves kind of could have used him because, Jerickson Profar was suspended for the first 80 games basically as the season began. But as I said, he was really, really good in the Dominican Winter League. He hit 301. He had 8 home runs. He had an 888 OPS this winter in that Dominican Winter League. And there is a chance, I think it's still going to be Otto Kemp, but I guess if Bryan De La Cruz shows out, there is a chance that he could end up being the right-handed platoon to Brandon Marsh in left field. Now, the good with Bryan De La Cruz is that the hard hit percentages have always been very consistent. He's above league average pretty much every year since he entered the league in 2021. Here's his hard hit percentages over his career: 42%, 47%, 42%, 41%. Last year, small sample size, but 52%, which will tell you that there maybe was a little bit of bad luck in his contact last year. The same can be said for his average exit velocity, which has been in the 59th percentile or better every year since 2022. And he's a really good fastball hitter. Over the last 3 full seasons, so 22, 23, and 24, he slugged 435 or better on fastballs and had average exit velocities at about 92 or better every single year. And from 2022 to 2024, when it comes to the fastball specifically, he had 80 extra base hits against the fastball. So a good fastball hitter does a good job of catching up to velocity. That's the good. The bad is that his chase rates and his whiff rates are really rough. His chase rates have been 31% or worse every year of his career. And in fact, the highest percentile that he's been, according to Baseball Savant in that time, is 34th percentile. His whiff rates has been 25.2% or worse every year. And that 25.2% was in his rookie season when he wasn't a qualified hitter. Of his qualified seasons, there are 3 of them so far. He's been in the 22nd, 28th, and 15th percentile in terms of whiff rates. And as good as he's been against the fastball, the breaking balls have been a problem. He struck out 125 times on breaking balls in the last 3 years. He's had 407 at-bats in which they've ended on a breaking ball. 31% of his at-bats the last 3 years against the breaking ball have ended in strikeout. He also doesn't get on base. He has just a 6.4% walk rate as the best walk rate of the last 4 seasons, and his on-base percentage has been over 300 just twice in his career, and one of those years was his rookie season. There's some good. The power is certainly there. There is some bad, and there's a reason he was a minor league signee. There's a reason that he only got 49 at-bats last year, and there is a reason that he is getting a non-roster invitee to camp with no guarantee that he's going to make a 26-man roster here or elsewhere. But I think that the power is certainly still there. I don't expect him to hit 20 home runs as a platoon player, but he does have 40 home runs over the last 2 full seasons between the Marlins and the Pirates. If he were to make a team and were to be a right-handed platoon piece to Brandon Marsh's left-handed platoon, at least you would have somebody with potential power upside. But I'll be honest with you, I don't know if he's going to make the team, but the intrigue is certainly there for a guy like Bryan De La Cruz. Ethan, your thoughts on De La Cruz heading into spring training, getting one of the 27 non-roster invitees?
It makes sense to give him an opportunity. There's obviously an open spot that really does need help. So I can appreciate the fact that there is acknowledgement from the Phillies that, hey, we need to figure this out. Let's bring in somebody who does make a lot of sense. He's been around the league. He's played a lot. So this isn't somebody who there is less expectation for or less understanding of what they can contribute. He has had some resurgence, being the MVP in which league was it? The
Dominican Winter League.
The Dominican Winter League, which it is not something to really scuff over. I mean, there is.
If it gives you any kind of comparison, a few years ago, Johan Rojas won Rookie of the Year in that league.
Okay, so. Well, I don't know how.
So quad A players is your answer.
I don't know how I should think of that then, really. But I mean, he's regaining confidence. I think that's the bottom line, and I would sure that would be the first thing that he would tell you is that no matter where he's playing, is that in that he could now continue to be on a better track, and I think it is worth seeing what he can do if that can now retranslate over to the MLB. But it's a guy who's going to try it, and I think that's really about it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think you remember the other day you and I talked about Austin Slater, getting a minor league deal with an invite to camp. I think this guy, Bryan De La Cruz, provides you more potential than Austin Slater does, just strictly because of the pop. Strikeout numbers are bad. Obviously, the OBP is extremely discouraging. But I do think that there is a chance for him to, be a right-handed bat off of a team's bench, give you a little bit of pop, spark type of player late. I don't expect him to get a full-time role, but for a team that is still kind of trying to decide who its right-handed left field platoon is going to be, and I do believe they're going to give Otto Kemp every chance to win that job, it certainly is not a bad thing to have multiple choices.